The day everything changed began with a sound that never quite left his ears, the echo of 3 small pairs of shoes slapping against concrete as they ran ahead of him, fearless and bright, toward a woman in red standing perfectly still at the edge of the park. In that instant, before he could call them back, before logic or fear could catch up, something inside him cracked open, because he felt it again, the same cold electric pull of a past he had buried deep enough to survive. His chest tightened, his breath stalled, and time slowed as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting to see whether he would run forward or turn away. Before the story pulls you any deeper, if you believe in kindness and second chances, and in the quiet ways broken lives find their way back to light, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep stories like this alive, and it tells the world that compassion still matters. He had not planned on stopping at the park that afternoon. Life as a single father to triplets rarely allowed room for detours or lingering moments. Every day was a carefully stacked tower of routines. School drop-offs, packed lunches cut into thirds, mismatched socks hunted down before the morning bell, grocery lists scribbled on receipts, bedtime stories read with one eye closing before the last page. Since the accident that took their mother, his world had narrowed into survival mode, measured in small victories like paid bills and laughter that still found a way into the house. Love was present, fierce and constant, but grief lived there too, heavy and unspoken, woven into the walls. That afternoon, exhaustion had guided his steps more than intention, and the park had simply been a place to let the children run while he caught his breath. The triplets had inherited their mother's curiosity and his stubbornness, a dangerous combination that meant stillness was never an option. They noticed everything, especially anything different. The woman in red stood out like a flame against the muted browns and greens of early autumn. She wore a long coat that moved gently with the wind, her dark hair pulled back, her posture calm, almost reverent, as if she were listening to something no one else could hear. She was not watching the children, not watching anyone. She was watching the sky, her hands resting at her sides, fingers relaxed but ready, as though they carried a language of their own. Before he realized what was happening, the children were already drifting toward her, drawn by the color, by the stillness, by the magnetism of someone who seemed unafraid to stand alone. Panic flared, sharp and sudden. His first instinct was to shout, to pull them back, to apologize in advance for whatever chaos they were about to create. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way the woman turned slowly, not startled, not annoyed, but open, as if she had expected them. Maybe it was the way his children's energy softened in her presence, their movements slowing, their faces tilting upward with unfiltered wonder. He watched from a distance, his heart pounding, as they gestured wildly with their hands, the universal language of children trying to explain everything at once. And then he saw it, the woman's hands lifting, moving with grace and purpose, shaping meaning in the air. Sign language, fluid, confident, alive. The sight alone would have been enough to stir something in him, but what froze him in place was recognition. Not of her face, not fully, but of the motion, the rhythm, the exact way her fingers curved and paused. It was a language he had once known intimately, a language he had used in the quiet hours of his life before everything fell apart. Memories surged without permission, memories of hospital corridors and waiting rooms, of promises made with hands when voices failed, of a woman he had loved in a different lifetime, before grief had taught him how fragile joy could be. He felt the ground shift beneath him, as the woman in red responded to his children not with impatience but with warmth. Her expressions animated, her hands telling a story they seemed to understand instinctively. As he approached, every step felt heavier than the last. His mind raced, torn between fear and longing. He told himself it was coincidence, that the past was clever at disguising itself, that he was projecting meaning where there was none. Yet his chest burned with a truth he could no longer ignore. The woman turned toward him, and in that moment the world sharpened painfully into focus. Her eyes met his, and something ancient and unresolved passed between them, a recognition that did not need sound to be real. She signed something then, slow and deliberate, her gaze steady. It was a phrase he had not seen in years, one that had once meant everything. It was a question about survival, about whether the heart could endure what life demanded of it. He stood there, frozen, because he knew how to answer, and he knew what answering would mean. His life had been built on moving forward without looking back, on protecting his children from the weight of his sorrow, on believing that love, once lost so violently, could never be reclaimed without risking everything. The woman in red represented a door he had sealed shut, not out of anger, but out of fear. Fear that healing would undo the careful balance he had created. Fear that hope would hurt more than despair ever had. Around them, the park continued as if nothing monumental were happening. Leaves fell. A dog barked. The sky stretched endlessly above, indifferent and beautiful. The days that followed were a blur of restless nights and distracted mornings. His children spoke often of the woman in red, their hands mimicking her movements, their faces glowing with the excitement of having learned something new without fully understanding its significance. He watched them with a mixture of awe and ache, realizing how much they absorbed from the world, how open they remained despite the loss that had shaped them. He found himself returning to the park at the same time each day, pretending it was coincidence, telling himself he was only indulging their curiosity. And each day, she was there, sometimes closer, sometimes farther away, always in red, always waiting without expectation. Slowly, cautiously, their lives began to overlap. There were no spoken confessions, no dramatic confrontations. Instead, there were shared silences and exchanged glances, moments of understanding carried on hands and expressions. He learned that she had continued signing long after he had stopped, that she had built a life around giving voice to those the world often overlooked. She learned, through his children's exuberant retellings and his tired smiles, how he had learned to be both mother and father, how grief had hollowed him out and then forced him to grow stronger around the emptiness. Trust did not arrive all at once. It seeped in slowly, like light through a cracked door, warming corners he had forgotten existed. The real challenge came not from the outside world, but from within him. Loving again meant reopening wounds he had carefully scarred over. It meant allowing joy to exist alongside memory without feeling like a betrayal. There were nights when he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his children asleep down the hall, wondering whether he was strong enough to choose happiness again. And there were moments, watching the woman in red laugh silently with his children, when he felt something shift irrevocably, a quiet certainty that healing did not erase the past, but honored it by continuing forward. As the seasons changed, so did they. The park transformed from a meeting place into a symbol of what was possible when fear loosened its grip. The woman in red was no longer just a reminder of what he had lost, but a testament to what he could still gain. His children flourished, their world expanding as they learned that communication was more than words, that connection could be built in countless ways. And he, slowly but surely, learned that his heart, though battered, was still capable of profound love. If this story is stirring something inside you, if it's reminding you of chances you almost missed or doors you were afraid to open, please take a moment near the end of this video to like it, share it, and let us know you are here. Your engagement tells us these stories matter, that they reach real hearts. Just before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that this story made you feel. It helps others connect, and it reminds us that emotions, shared, are powerful. In the end, it was not a grand gesture that defined their story, but a simple one. A moment in the fading light of an ordinary day, hands moving in quiet conversation, children laughing nearby, and a man who finally allowed himself to believe that love could return without taking anything away. The woman in red had not come to save him, and he had not come to rescue her. They had found each other at the intersection of loss and hope, and together they chose to keep going. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe even a little more in kindness and second chances, stay connected with us. Stories like this live on because of you.